Kelsey, I'm going to spotlight you. You can begin.
Great. Thanks so much, Joshi, for all of that incredible work. And first and foremost, to all of our interpreters. We couldn't do this meeting for our membership, our families without you. So an enormous thanks to you for being here. And welcome, everyone. My name's Kelsey Brendel, the current chair of SpEdPAC. A special welcome to those of you who are new. Maybe this is your first meeting, and welcome back to those of you who have come back. But as you know, it's a new school year, so everything has that sort of, newish feeling about it. So a couple of things about what's in store tonight for this evening's meeting, what you can expect, how the format of the meeting will go, and then just a quick word about who we are and why we're here. As I said, we're SpEdPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and we serve a couple of different purposes. And we're so glad you're here as parents, guardians, and speaking and working on behalf of all students in the Boston Public Schools with disabilities, because we are really here to speak for and advocate for them. So in short, we're here for you and those students, and to amplify the voices of those students and you as parents, families, and guardians who most robustly represent them every single day. So we are here to amplify that voice, to echo the people who may not always be right in the room, but whose voices desperately need to be heard about all issues that involve special education in the Boston public school systems and the things we most urgently need to pay attention to given what your concerns are. We're here to listen to those, to change and shift when we need to as those topics change and shift. We work to advise the district on a number of those topics that are important to you. So we are always listening to our membership, and then in turn, have a seat at the table with the district to advise them on those matters. We hold meetings, as you know, every month. This is the first of them for this school year, where we really work to highlight, usually with expert opinions, some of the featured topics, again, that you as parents and guardians and caregivers care the most about when it comes to advocating on behalf of students with disabilities in the district. So we'll usually take each meeting to highlight a very specific topic, do kind of a deep dive into it, invite someone to speak about it that knows a great deal, and really remind everyone here that ultimately the meeting belongs to you, to the families. It belongs to our membership. And so while we're so excited to host everyone who can speak uh, well on a certain topic, equally important is giving families on these meetings the opportunity to ask their questions of anyone who works at Boston Public Schools, at the district. I remind everyone, and a little bit of a personal experience, when I started coming to these meetings years ago, I felt pretty shy. I thought everyone knew more about the topic than I did, and I was afraid to ask a lot of the questions I had about my own young son with disabilities. And I say that only because I really, really encourage everyone here, whether it's your first time on a meeting or you come to them every month, um, any question that you are thinking of considering, please ask it, write it in the chat. We've designated a whole period of time at the end of the meeting just for your questions. And we're also able to connect you more personally on matters that may be more private or related to your student in particular. And we will be absolutely sure by the end of this meeting that your question is answered, or that we connect you with someone at Boston Public Schools who will follow up and really ensure that your inquiries and questions are answered offline in a more private way, if that's what's appropriate. So ask away. There is no silly question. And in fact, you'd be doing a great service to lots of other people on this meeting and in our BPS community by asking things, even if you think we've all heard them before, because I can guarantee you there are people who are always applauding the person who's asking something that they wish they could also hear the answer to. So on that note, tonight's topics, as you saw, are sort of twofold. We're going to start out speaking about transportation. We're lucky enough to have Dan Rosengard here, who is the Executive Director of Transportation at Boston Public Schools. So thrilled to have him here. Also here is Carrie Norman, who's the Special Education Transportation Compliance Manager. And so they will begin our presentation and help to support on some questions you may have later. And then following Dan, we're going to take a very, very quick break so our interpreters can get that well-deserved break. And we'll come right back and hear from our Office of Specialized Services, a brief intro into what they do and specifically how they support students in inclusion settings. So we'll hear from Deputy Kay Seal, and that will be really an exciting opportunity to ask questions about both of those topics. We'll have both the presentations first, they're brief, and then, as I said before, we will pivot completely for the last half of the meeting to your questions, your inquiries, what's on your mind, and being able to speak to those people who can best answer your questions. A couple of reminders before we begin. Josh is very good at reminding me what to remind on, so hopefully I won't let her down either. First and foremost, we've already done this, I think, but being really respectful of how we all, whether we're asking questions or for our speakers to speak slowly, again, so that interpreters can do their task well. And then I think a more obvious one, but some of these meetings, it's quite understandable that the topics we're discussing are so deeply personal and passionate for many people with very good reason. And I would just remind everyone here that we're all here for each other, and just be respectful and patient. We will get to you. And, you know, that's just a gentle reminder to remember community on calls like this and kindness. And then lastly, just recall if you are a parent or guardian and asking a specific question that pertains to your child or a more personal situation, just be mindful that this is a public meeting. So just use your own judgment about how much detail, you know, you offer about your own child's situation, and know that we, again, can introduce you to someone at BPS on this call or to be followed up with. If it's something that needs to be tackled more privately, we're happy to do that, but just know that you're out on a public meeting, so anything you share will be heard by a lot of people. Well, with that said, and with this time, we should certainly get started. Again, thank you so much for being here. We hope this is only the first of many meetings you come to. So get excited. And with that, I will turn it over to Dan Rosengard, who has much to tell us all about the newness of some of the transportation features, and everyone has bright yellow school buses on their mind when the school year starts. So he'll take it from here. And then, as I said, we'll pause and move over to our next chapter.
Thanks, Kelsey, and really just excited to be here tonight, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk to this group and you know, share a little bit of information and also hear your questions and feedback. So I have you know, a brief presentation, and then really want to, as Kelsey said, leave as much time as possible for all of your questions or, you know, feedback, or, you know, any issues that anyone's having. And myself and Carrie, who's also here, are, you know, really you know, just eager and excited to be here, and happy to answer any questions that folks have. Want to, you know, start. So just the one slide today, wanted to start out first, just for folks who might be, you know, new to this meeting or new to BPS, just give a very high level overview of BPS Transportation, who we are, what we do. So BPS, we transport about 22,000 students daily who receive yellow bus transportation on about 640 yellow buses. And that includes Boston Public Schools. It also includes charter and private schools within Boston, as well as transportation to out-of-district special education schools. Of those 22,000 students, about 6,400 students who we transport receive door-to-door service as a, you know, and that's an accommodation within their IEP or their 504 plan. And we also have about 2,800 students who require a bus monitor. And a bus monitor is an additional adult on the bus who is trained to support students with disabilities. That can include a general bus monitor who's there to support multiple students on the bus, or a one-to-one bus monitor. And we have about 450 students who receive a one-to-one bus monitor as part of their IEP. We have bus monitors on all of our buses that are transporting students with disabilities. This is our second year with that model in place, which we're really excited about. So that means any students on what we call an HS, an MS, or a WB bus. So that's a half safety, a mini safety, or a wheelchair accessible bus. So basically all of our buses except the full buses have at least one monitor on board serving as a general monitor, to support the students on board the bus. Because I saw one question in the chat about it already. I know Carrie put some information in there, but just to talk very briefly about the training that our bus monitors receive. We provide training every summer and during the school year for bus monitors are trained in a number of areas. These include de-escalation and prevention. It includes safety care training that has a sensory integration component, as well as training bus monitors on potential student responses to sensory stimuli. They receive racial equity training, mandated reporter training, and other equity protocol training. They receive CPR, first aid certification, EpiPen, asthma and airway management, and seizure training, as well as training on trauma-informed care and social emotional learning. And then we also provide individualized trainings for bus monitors who serve specific school populations. One example is the Horace Mann School for students who are deaf and hard of hearing. We do a training every year at the school for the bus monitors assigned to that school. We do similar things at other schools with very specific strand programs. One of the things that we're really excited about is that we went into this school year for the first time in many years fully staffed with both drivers and monitors. So we had over 750 bus monitors, as well as 750 bus drivers at the start of the school year. And that's the first time since prior to the pandemic that we've been fully staffed on both those fronts, which we're really excited about and is something that most school districts across the country are still experiencing staffing shortages with their transportation providers. So we've done a lot of work to get back to that point. So that's a very high level overview. Certainly happy to answer any additional questions that come up in the chat, around just the BPS transportation and how it works. The second topic that I wanted to highlight tonight, and hopefully many of you are already familiar with it, is that we have a new Zoom mobile app that we've rolled out over the summer for extended school year, and then this fall across our entire operation. And that is a new system-wide technology. So Zoom offers an integrated routing and operations technology that our team and the bus company uses. And that technology is tied to GPS navigation tablets on the school buses that drivers have, as well as the Zoom mobile app that parents and caregivers can use. And this really is a really significant system-wide technological change for us. Prior to this, as many of you know, transportation had basically been done one way in Boston for the last half a century, and that was with clipboards and paper routes. And we had, we've done a lot of work, we'd made a lot of progress in recent years, but what we saw and what we knew is that we were never going to get to the level of service that that families and students deserve, nor were we going to be able to provide the level of safety that our students need using that system that was in place. And so we did a lot of work over the last year to prepare for and to ultimately roll out this new technology across our system. And when we think about Zoom ultimately and the system-wide changes that we are implementing, it's going to have a number of benefits across our operation. First, it provides families with significantly improved transparency regarding their child's bus. So this includes real-time bus tracking, ETAs to the bus stop. It includes automated push notifications when the bus is delayed, and it includes notifications when students get on the bus and when they get off the bus. Second, Zoom really will help us to improve student safety, as we're able to more accurately track when students get on and off the bus, and also just have a lot more information available both for our team and for families and for the driver and the monitor around students. And then lastly, we really think that this is over time going to help us increase the overall efficiency and reliability of BPS transportation, as we can update our bus routes, based on actual traffic and road conditions, as well as actual student ridership that we're seeing. So we're very excited about the potential this has, and certainly been working through some initial kinks and working to acclimate our entire staff as well as families to it over the last few weeks. But really think it's going to have a positive impact for families, going forward. So I would, first I would just really encourage everyone here, if you haven't already, to download the Zoom mobile app. It's available both, iOS and Android apps. You can find it in the App Store. You can also go to our website, bostonpublicschools.org/transportation, and see information as well as FAQs and a video that demonstrates how to log in and how to use it. We have more than 12,000 parents and guardians already using it, and that represents over 16,000 students. So almost 70% of students who are assigned to the school bus, are already using Zoom. You can log in using either your email address or your phone number that is on file with BPS. And so if you are, if you put your email address or your phone number in and you're getting any sort of error or saying that, your account is not available or anything, you just need to contact BPS Welcome Center to make sure that we have the right email address or your right phone number on file so that you can log in. This next point, I really want to emphasize, double, triple. This is really, really important, especially for our students with disabilities. Within the Zoom app, you will have the option and ability to upload a photo of your student. This photo will be available so that the bus driver and the bus monitor can see it, and that will allow them to really, really make sure that the right student is getting on and off the bus at the right, at the right spot. And if there are any, anything that goes wrong, this will just really, really help us with, with improving and making sure that our students are safe. So again, I just really, really want to encourage this, this in particular. Please, please consider uploading a photo to the Zoom app if you haven't already. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about our customer service and our communications team. I think, particularly this time of year, this is, we know that this is really, really vital for families. I think especially this year, we've, as many of you probably know, we've seen some worse delays on our buses compared to past years. We see delays every year as our bus drivers are acclimating to new routes, as well as changing traffic conditions, as drivers and monitors are meeting students and families for the first time, and over the first few weeks as we need to adjust routes, either because students are continuing to enroll or transferring schools, or because we identify and need to, address issues with the routes to allow them to run on time. So we see that every year. And I think this year, we were also acclimating to, a new technology. And so, this was, our team, drivers, families, everyone was acclimating to this new system. And, as a consequence of that, we saw some worse delays at the start of this year than we've seen over the past few years. I think one thing that we are very encouraged by is we've made very consistent and steady improvements each week so far this year. And actually last Thursday, we hit a point where we were kind of at par with where we were at the same time last year. So last Thursday, we had more than 83% of our buses that arrived at school on time, which again, I highlight that because that is the same percentage that we saw on the equivalent day last school year. And so while, certainly that is not, where we need to be, we need 100% of students to be getting to school on time each week. I think, what we've seen is that it took that few weeks to acclimate to the new technology. And now we're really continuing to work hard to make sure that we keep making improvements. Our goal is not just to get back to where we were in prior years, but to actually exceed that. But again, we know that many families have experienced delays or, are having questions or issues. And so, if that is happening, if you need to get in contact with us, we have a full service customer service team with more than 25 staff, including multilingual staff who are available to support families. You can reach us through a number of different ways. You can call our transportation hotline at 617-635-9520. When you call, you'll have 3 options. So you can press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, or 3 to be connected directly with a member of our bus monitors unit if you're having any issue with the bus monitor or a question about that. We do have, staff available in across all of the 10 BPS languages. So, if you press 1 and you need your language, just, let the operator know, and we should be, and we can connect you to someone in that language. Or if there's not somebody immediately available, we can make sure that someone from our team or from the BPS helpline team can, contact you as soon as possible in your language. In addition to the hotline, families can also submit a ticket in our support portal, and the link is here. And we'll work with Kelsey and Joshi to make sure that that this information gets out to all families on this meeting. Or you can email us at schoolbus@bostonpublicschools.org. I think, I'm already starting to see some questions in the chat, and I know that many families have experienced this. I do want to acknowledge that, we have higher wait times and longer response times at the start of the school year. We get many calls and many inquiries, but just want to make sure that, families know that we will make sure that every ticket and every email and everyone who reaches out to us gets a response as soon as possible. Our team is working very hard. The superintendent's team has also diverted some resources from their team, some additional staff to help, make sure that we're getting back to every family as soon as possible. And, we are committed to that. And, again, we'll make sure that we, connect with every single family to address any concerns you might have. So all that said, I just want to close it out by saying that, just really incredibly grateful to, all of you and to all of our BPS families for your patience, for your understanding, for your feedback, and, in collaboration working with us. We know that, this fall particularly has been kind of an instance of taking a step back to go forward. And, that while it's necessary in the long term to build the, kind of improved and modernized transportation system that you all deserve and that our students deserve, it has had a very real impact on families in the immediate. And so just want to acknowledge that. And again, just express, my appreciation to everybody and to all of you. And, just, again, happy to answer any questions that folks have. So I'll turn my attention to the chat and start to follow up there. And I'll hand it back to Kelsey. But thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was really comprehensive, and I think really great for families to hear not only some of the newness features of the app, but also how incredibly important it is, particularly for our families with students with disabilities, to take advantage of some of the newness that app allows for that really both keeps them safe, but keeps BPS drivers, monitors, all accountable to what's actually happening on the bus. So one more plug for families, please upload that picture of your student. It's a safety measure. It's hugely important. We're going to make a little bit of a pivot here because shockingly, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. I know we have to put this break in for our interpreters, which I'm happy to do, but I think we should just spend the next, I'd say 5 or 6 minutes starting to tackle some of the questions related to transportation so we don't stop cold turkey like that and people lose their momentum. And I promise you, we will come back to several more that we may not get to immediately when we finish the second half of the presentation. So let's alternate. Let's spend, again, 5 or 6 minutes right now. If there are questions that you have and you can raise your hand, we will alternate between a live question that I'll repeat, and Edith will help me to amplify a question she sees in the chat, and we can plow through a couple of those right away. Dan, is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Right. I'm sorry.
So Kelsey, I will leave it up to all of you, but I think we should take turns between the chat and raise hands. Or
Yep, that's what I just said. Yep,
okay,
that's what.
okay. Thank
So first question, Katie Kelsey, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, everybody. I asked this in the chat. My son's bus is coming on time now, which I appreciate. However, the route that he has is over an hour from when school gets out to when he gets home, and he's 5 years old. And we live in the same neighborhood as my school. I mean, I understand that some routes need to be that long. How do I go about requesting to get this changed? I have reached out to every single person in transportation that I can, and I am getting absolutely no responses. And I understand it's not the most pressing issue across the city right now, but it's a pressing issue to my family to have my 5-year-old home before 5:15 every night.
Yeah. Yes, Katie, no, I appreciate the question. And yeah, 60 minutes is kind of is the upper limit in terms of the length of routes that we try to make. Sometimes, given the makeup of where students are located, routes can look differently. Sometimes that is inevitable, but yeah, I guess if you could put your maybe student ID or some sort of information in the chat so that I can take that information back and look specifically at your student's route, and I'll make sure that a member of our team follows up with you tomorrow.
Thank you. I will. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
So
Kate.
Courtney Feely-Carp had a question in the chat. Courtney, I know that Dan talked about the training. The question was about what is the specific training that the bus drivers and monitors have. Courtney, did Dan answer your question?
Dan answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. That works for right now. I
Okay.
appreciate the specifics, and I think we'll just take up any individual issues another way. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. So I'm going to go to the next chat question, which was Chiquita talked about this, a delayed, sometimes her child is not picked up on time, and then there's a late arrival. There were other participants here tonight that had the similar question, buses not showing. So I'm going to kind of cluster around the arrival and the drop off. So a number of people, Carrie said the bus doesn't show up. And when it does, it's usually 20 minutes late. Lisa said her child lives 6 minutes away. Can she still get transportation? And then one more, Denise says that her child gets door to door, and she talked about the wait time in that. So I just want to cluster that around. These parents are saying that either the bus is not showing up, it's showing up late, showing up inconsistently. And one parent said that although school gets out at 2:45, her child doesn't get home until 5 o'clock. So we're really talking about pickup, arrival times, and consistent pickup.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and appreciate all those questions in the chat, as well as Edith kind of summarizing them together like that. So I think there's a few different things there. One is the buses that are running late. And with that, at the start of every school year, we have drivers acclimating to new routes. We have new, typically, changes in traffic conditions on the road. And so we usually see some level of delay at the start of the school year. I think this year in particular, we saw a couple additional things on top of that where we saw some worse delays than usual. One of that is certainly that we were all acclimating to a new technology, the Zoom system, across our operation. And so, drivers were trained on that, and many of them used it over the summer, but that is found that that's, a little bit different than real world conditions in September traffic. We've also seen that, traffic conditions have continued to get worse across much of the city, especially with the red line shut down for much of this year in the, Dorchester, Ashmont area. And then the last thing that we've seen is we've seen continued, high levels of students who are enrolling at new schools or changing schools or having, an address change or maybe a newly signed IEP or some sort of change that requires a change to their transportation. So all of that together has meant that we've kind of been going through a lot of change at the start of this year. And what we found from that is that, many of the routes, many of them just needed a week or so for everyone to get used to them and for them to start to run on time. But many of them also needed some adjustments. And one of the great things about Zoom is that it has a built-in feedback loop that we never had before, where each week we're getting all this data on the actual traffic, actual times that trips are taking on the road. And that's feeding back into the system and, updating the scheduled time for the runs. But then after those updates happen, what we see sometimes is, okay, maybe this run doesn't actually work for the bus to go to, whatever school and then to the Henderson after that. And that's that's why I saw someone put the Henderson in the chat. I absolutely, like, the Henderson is one of the schools where we've seen a number of those routes that, we thought would work, but then, as we see the actual conditions on the road at the start of the year and, and making different adjustments, we saw that those buses are actually running quite late. And so our team each week is making updates to the routes themselves to address any of these conflicts or any of these issues to help the routes run more on time. We've seen kind of a nice steady improvement each week where we've made a consistent kind of jump up each week. And we're going to continue to do that until we're making sure that everything is running on time. So that's kind of the
Dan, I don't
delays
wanna-
piece.
So sorry, Dan, I don't want to interrupt you, but we have so many people who have more questions for you. I want to
Okay.
make sure we plow through a couple of
Yep.
more.
Okay. So I'll just really quickly, maybe on the other points Edith mentioned, if the bus is not coming to your stop, make sure to let our team know. You can call the hotline or submit a ticket so that we can address that with the driver. And then in terms of your bus assignment, that is determined based on the IEP. So, if you live 6 minutes from the school or wherever you live, transportation accommodations would be based on what's in your IEP or your 504 plan.
Thank you so much. There was someone named Zwan, I think. I may be saying your name wrong. Was having trouble raising your hand. Go ahead and ask your question if you can hear us.
Hello, dạ xin lỗi em chị dịch giùm em nha. Con em là dạng như chương trình đặc biệt nhưng những cái những cái trường hợp đặc biệt đó nhưng ở school bus không có thông dịch tiếng Việt nên em yêu cầu là xin hỗ trợ về tiếng Việt khi khi những phụ huynh Việt Nam cần để mà gọi để nhờ sự giúp đỡ.
Can the Vietnamese interpreter join the English channel so that we can know what the question or concern was?
Hello,
Okay.
can
To the larger group, the parent was saying that she's been calling the hotline, Dan, but there's no interpretation to support the Vietnamese speaking family. So what can we do to support them?
Okay, we can, yeah, maybe if you can put, maybe if we can grab her contact info and make sure that a Vietnamese speaking member of the team can reach out and give support.
Thanks, Dan. And I see, before we turn and take one more back from the chat, Ebony, I know you've had your hand raised for a while. Go ahead.
I just have I'm sorry, and can I more question, right? And chị hỏi giùm em là tại vì em có tới văn phòng của SpEdPAC rồi, nhưng em muốn em họp em muốn dự họp bữa nay là em muốn gặp những người cấp trên, có thể là làm sao để em liên lạc được cấp trên để mà nói về những cái trường hợp của con em đã bị SpEdPAC, tại vì con em là dạng bị autism á. Dạ, thank you.
The Vietnamese interpreter.
Absolutely. If we could maybe get your contact information from the chat, we can have a manager from our monitors unit reach out to support.
Can the interpreter share that with the parents so that we can get that information and follow up tomorrow?
Edith, do you in the meantime want to highlight an additional question from chat?
So again, I'm going to cluster because there are a lot of questions. So I'm going to sort of cluster around 3 concerns here. One parent is saying that the ticket system is not working for her. She got very frustrated because she had to take out 3 tickets in order to have the problem solved and almost gave up. So is there a more efficient way to address when getting a ticket, talking about a problem, and then having to repeat it multiple times? Is there a more efficient way that she can get her problem solved? So that's one cluster of questions. The other one, Dan, is around the Zoom system. When there's a substitute bus, it does not track that alternative bus. So parents don't get information about arrival and pickup times. If there's a bus that needs to be substituted, there's no tracking in it. And also with the very late arrivals, we're talking about an hour late arrival to school. So very late. How do you sort of look at the logistics of the routes? I know that there are delays, there's traffic, but if there's a pattern of being an hour late for school on a regular basis, at what point does the district look at the routing system and say this route is just not working? So 3 things. There's lots more in the chat, but if you could be succinct in addressing those, maybe give some contact information or alternatives to, for example, the ticketing, going back and back and back, and not, oh, can I just add one more? The monitors. Some of the monitors are not trained to work with students with disabilities. This might be something that Zach could chime in on. And parents are feeling that the monitors are rude to their children. This could be a lack of training, a lack of awareness of what these students need in order to safely ride the bus. So students with sensory overload, students who have communication issues, they're feeling that the bus monitors are rude and they're not aware of students with disabilities. And what can you give us more information about, what is the content of the training that happens? So I know there's 4, so I'm just trying to get the parents' questions posed so we can have a meaningful discussion. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I will try to be succinct and let me know if any additional information is helpful. So firstly, in terms of tickets, I think the one thing I would really encourage, rather than, I first want to just acknowledge response times definitely are longer than we would like them to be this time of year. Our aim is always to respond to everything within 7 to 10 days. And we're seeing for many tickets, more like 3 weeks right now. The one thing that I would suggest to families, the ticketing system is the right place to go. But if when you submit a ticket, or when you call into the hotline and the rep submits a ticket on your behalf, if you can get the ticket number, and then if you need to call back or you email or something, you can refer back to that ticket number rather than feeling like you need to open a second and a third ticket about the same issue. That will just help keep it all in one place and make sure that the person who's already working on it kind of sees all the updates together in one spot. And we'll keep working to get through those as quickly as possible. Secondly, the Zoom app with covering buses. So actually, one of the things we're really excited about with Zoom is that it does track covering buses much better than our old system. That's because the ride, the tracking, everything, it follows the driver. So whatever bus the driver signs into, that's what the parents are tracking, that's what we're tracking. It no longer relies on somebody on our team kind of manually entering covering buses. But you are correct that we're at kind of 98% of our drivers using the app correctly every day right now, but that still leaves 2%, which is still a lot of families every day. And when they're not fully signed in, that's when you're not able to track the bus. And so if you're experiencing that, please make sure to flag it for us, either through a ticket or calling in, and we're providing follow-up coaching and training to drivers to help make sure that we're getting to that 100% of people using the app correctly. Lastly, thirdly, with the very significantly late buses, that is definitely a focus of our team each week when we're making routing adjustments. We have all the data coming in every day, and we are doing what we are looking at and prioritizing those buses that are running most significantly and consistently late when making routing adjustments. In most cases, if a bus is running that late, the trip needs to be moved to a different bus, because probably the pairing between the two schools in succession doesn't work for that route. And then lastly, on monitor training, yeah, I don't know. I talked a little bit about that earlier. And Zach, I don't know if there's anything you want to add here as well, so maybe I'll defer to you first.
Sure, I can add.
Zach, before you answer that, can you just add, because I know that you do the ABA services, and I want you to add the piece of with what the question really needs to be addressed, in addition to the rudeness and what's feeling like disrespect and unaware of disabilities. The harm that happens with students with autism who need relationships that are consistent in the bidding of the buses. And this is probably in your wheelhouse, Dan, where bus bidding is based upon the lowest bid rather than the continuity and consistency that students, particularly with autism, require in order to feel safe. So they suddenly there's a new person showing up, a new van showing up, a new monitor showing up, and this creates chaos for students with autism. So it is a logistic about that piece. And Zach, yes, what is the specific training, and how can parents really address these kinds of complaints, because they're really harming students?
So Dan, do you want to go with the bidding part first, and then I'll jump in with the training resources?
Sure. So in terms of how drivers and monitors are assigned, that is a contractually obligated process through their union contract, where at the start of each school year, all drivers and all monitors, and through separate processes, have the opportunity to bid or select their route for the year, so the bus that they're going to do for the year, and that goes in seniority order, so starting with the most senior monitor and then on down. And then we also have a pool of standby monitors and standby drivers who do a similar process every single day for any trips where the normal monitor or driver is absent, where they would select their work for the day, again, in seniority order. And like I said, that's part of their union contract. And once that's in place, we then work to make sure that that driver and monitor get whatever training or individualized information they need for the students on their routes.
So I'll be brief just to add to the specific sort of systematized trainings that the monitors get that Dan mentioned and I put in the chat. We also have done in-school trainings where groups of monitors go into the school and spend some time with the students and get to know them in a different way. And then we also provide targeted training in situations where those interventions, those resources have not been sufficient. And we do direct work with individual monitors. Schools can also help by developing bus management guidelines. That's been tremendously helpful, where they provide to the transportation staff the skills and strategies that happen during the school day. And then we can support with training the monitors to use those resources. So we really do hit it from a variety of different directions and a variety of different disciplines. And it really is when you're having specific challenges where you're feeling a monitor is not properly supporting your child or you're having concerns, I would advise 2 steps be taken. 1, submit a ticket or call the customer service line and let them know specifically what the concern is. And also 2, please make sure you make the school aware because they have a touch point with that bus every single day. And the staff at the school can work with those monitors to make sure that they have the training and resources they need to work with those individual students. And the school staff are the ones who know your kids the very best.
Thank you so much, Zach, for that. I think this is exactly the right time. There are tons more questions on this issue, and it's such an important one. I think for the interpreters, we're going to take our 5-minute break right here. So go get a drink of water, come up with more of your questions. When we come back, we will tackle more of those, and we'll also hear from Office of Specialized Services and from Deputy Seal.
Yeah,
So
and before we take a break, I just want to acknowledge that these are real serious on the ground issues that parents are experiencing. And while the district is doing some attempts, they're not working. We need to acknowledge that the parents are having a very different experience from what the district is stating. And even Patrick Tuckwalla said that transportation is delayed, it has not improved and is as bad as it was a decade ago. So we have a less efficient system. I know there's technology, but we have to be very clear that transportation is not working for these parents and parents are not getting to work, and there are real serious issues that need to be addressed. So I really want to emphasize that. We hear you, parents, and the district needs to address these issues. I just want to echo that as we go into the break.
thank you, Edith. Thank you for raising that and amplifying it. All right, let's take the break. We'll see you in 5 minutes. We'll resume with these questions, and then we'll get to the other segment in a minute.
All set.
Great, thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. Another quick little pivot here. There's clearly so much momentum around questions that need to be answered for transportation. I think the best thing to do so that there's some continuity in the rest of this conversation, our meeting will end promptly at 8:30. We're going to keep taking questions both live and in the chat. We'll alternate, I'd say until 8:15 or so, and then pivot and close on that second segment. So let's get right to that. I know that Ebony has been waiting for a long time to ask a question. So go ahead, Ebony.
Thank you. I just have 2 quick questions. I've had a ticket open for about 15 days now, and every time I call, I'm being told the information's being added to the ticket and, somebody will follow up with me. But I've called for different issues. So I'm just trying to figure out, are there supposed to be separate tickets? Like, I've called about the app not functioning. Like, I live in West Roxbury. My daughter goes to school in Rosendale. It shows the bus like zigzagging from Charlestown back to, Rosendale, Charlestown, West Roxbury on the Tobin Bridge. And I'm like, I don't understand what's happening with the with the tracker. And they're like, oh, we'll add that to the ticket. The afternoon bus is late and the morning bus is late. We'll add it to the ticket. So I'm not sure what the follow-up process is supposed to be. Like, am I supposed to just keep calling? Like, I don't really get any information on what's being worked on. So yeah, that was pretty much my question.
Ebony, maybe if you could put ticket number or your contact information in the chat, I'll make sure a manager gets back to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to take one more live question, then we'll go back to the chat. Henrietta, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm sorry. I had a question, but I don't know how to raise my hand.
Tell us your name and we'll come right back to you.
Okay, my name is Anab Farah.
Okay, we'll come right back to you, Anab. Thanks for
All
the
right.
question.
Thank you.
Henrietta, go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you. My question is regarding the rebidding and how it had affected my child. Because when this happened and having a monitor who was telling her not to like touch me and yelling, and it was a brand new monitor, it really took a toll. And I was just wondering, what do we do about that? Because just having to take her away from the driver and the monitor that she was used to, and having to put her with someone that poorly trained, didn't have the right tool to be able to deal with her disability, it's not a good look. So I'm just wondering, what is the school or the district willing to do about this situation? And I'm sure I'm not the only parent that's dealing with this. So I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to approach this, because it's really getting out of hand. I know providing training, but I feel like just bringing in someone new and, you know, taking a child with autism away from someone who they're already comfortable with, and they've worked so hard to get comfortable, and they go into the regress. And as a parent, we work so hard for them to make progress, and we don't want that for them. So what can we do about this?
Yeah, no,
Or
thank
what
you
do you
for the
guys
question.
suggest?
I think I saw a couple similar questions in the chat, so I appreciate you raising it here. So when you talk about rebidding, just for folks who may not be aware, this is at the end of October or first week of November. Part of the driver's contractual bargaining agreement is they have the ability, if they want, to bid on a new route. So drivers, if based on maybe changes that have come in, there's a rebidding process where drivers can go through another bid if they want to, and that results in some drivers getting a new route, starting in November for the rest of the school year. So you may see your driver change at the end of October, early November, and we'll communicate to families before that happens. I definitely understand that can have an impact, especially on students who rely on that routine. It's something we'll continue to think about how we could maintain as much consistency as possible. Just to be to clarify though, for monitors, there is no rebid. So monitors, your monitor from the start of the year should continue to be your monitor all year, unless there's something else that happens, maybe if the monitor, leaves, or if there's an incident or something like that, but there's no rebid process for monitors. So if all is going well there, then you should, have the same monitor throughout the year.
Thanks, Dan.
That wasn't the case. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was a.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That was not the case. It was a completely new person, new company. And they had no understanding. They didn't know who she is. That's one of the main things that we noticed. They had no idea. I pretty much have to tell them about my daughter. And I think that's the thing, where they're bringing in this new people, have no understanding at all of the child that they're about to drive. And it's like they're leaving it up to the parent to tell them. And I feel like it shouldn't be our job to train or tell these people should have some sort of insight about the child they're about to transport in a way. I mean, we can talk to them, we can tell them, but when they have no idea, and that the monitor have to yell at my daughter and have to say, don't touch me, excuse me, but I really have to like redirect them and say, you don't have to speak to my child this way. That's a problem. It was a completely new monitor from completely different company. So that's why I'm actually bringing this up to you guys' attention.
Well, first, let me say I'm sorry that that happened. That doesn't sound like, you know, it doesn't sound like it was the appropriate, you know, way to interact with your daughter, and certainly want to make sure to follow up on that. So I guess if you're willing to put your contact information in the chat, can make sure that we reach out to you directly.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you for putting your information in, and we'll follow up on that. One more, Anab, I know we said we'd get right back to you, so I don't want to keep you waiting for too long. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, yes. I have a daughter who goes to school, and she is autistic. We had one little situation with the bus driver. I believe it was the second day of school. I have other 4 kids who also attend school, who takes the bus, and also newborn daughter. So what happened was he was kind of a little bit rude, because I was like maybe 5 minutes late to our bus stop because I had to go pick up my other kids from school. And he was like saying that he was going to report me, all this stuff. So I was wondering, how long does it take for him, you know, to wait for us until the parents or the guardians, whoever is home, to pick up my child?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had that interaction. That doesn't you know, sound appropriate, and certainly if you submit a ticket or put your information in the chat, we can make sure that we follow up and address that. You know, in general, you know, we ask parents to the extent possible. I know emergencies happen, things happen. You know, if you're able to, certainly in the Zoom app can help with this. You should, you know, see the ETA, and then, you know, we ask that if possible, families are at the stop, you know, before the bus arrives. If a parent is not there when the bus gets to a stop for a student with door-to-door drop-off, they will, you know, the driver will stop and wait. They'll radio into our safety desk, and we'll reach out to the family to understand how far from the stop they are. And then, you know, based on, you know, that specific set of circumstances, in some cases it makes sense to have the driver wait. In other cases, we may have the driver continue the rest of the drop-offs and then come back to the stop, depending on how far away you are from the stop. But that is the kind of communication process and decision process that should be happening there.
Yes, and also one last question is that I also have other kids that goes to school that I wanted. Me and my husband was trying to get them door to door. I have a son who has ADHD. He cannot stay still, so we did everything to get the door to door bus, but nobody has not gotten back to us. So I'm tired of, you know, my husband picking them up like maybe like 1 hour early from school because they're missing a lot of classes that hour. So we was wondering, how can we get that door to door? We even brought doctor notes from the doctor saying that the student has ADHD and he needs to request a door to door bus, but nobody has not got back to us at all.
Yeah, so I can briefly answer, and then if anyone from the OSS team wants to jump in, please feel free. But door-to-door or any other transportation accommodations would be, you know, IEP team decisions. So if you know, if that's something that you feel is appropriate, then I would, you know, recommend you know, reaching out to the school to reconvene the IEP team and talk about that.
Yeah, we tried to do that, the door to door, but still nobody has not got back to us. Even we spoken to the principal, my husband went to the bus place. We did everything. We brought doctor notes, and nobody still got back to us. We just, you know, I just don't want my kids to miss 1 hour or 2 hours from their classes to get picked up from school. Because the fact that their bus is like 2 different stops, and when they come from school, it's going to be hard for me, you know, to go that stop, pick these kids up, then the other kids come from school like same time, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So that means that, you know, I'm going to have a problem with my daughter's bus driver because he's going to be waiting another 5 minutes and he's going to complain about it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the situation I'm having right now. It's a difficult time to get the door to door.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that last piece too. And Dan, are you able to pick this up privately too with this caller? if you're comfortable leaving information. I think that's really, really important. I'm being mindful of time for everyone on this call, grateful for it, but there are so many questions here, so I want to turn it back to Edith. If she may see either more questions in the chat, let's highlight them here. And then I promise that the three folks who I see on the screen right now, we will get back to your live questions. We'll move quickly and swiftly.
So thank you, Kelsey. Dan, I just want to say this is a situation where policy clashes with best practice for specifically students with autism. And I'm staying on that topic because a lot of the questions cluster around how students with autism are being abused verbally and in some cases physically by either the monitors or other students, being called ignorant, for example, when their behavior is something that the monitor feels is abhorrent, but the monitor doesn't understand that the student has a disability. So what the parents are saying is that whatever training is happening, it's not happening systemically. And the monitors are abusing students by verbally calling them names. There's a parent who had a child sitting next to her son, taunting her son and screaming in her son's face. And then the son goes home and hits himself. And so this is causing students to be dysregulated. It's causing real harm. So with the bidding, the policy of bidding is clashing with the continuity, consistency, and relationship building that needs to happen when a student gets a monitor with whom they have a good relationship. And that's a special ed issue. So the policy in terms of, Dan, your office and the IEP, fulfilling and implementing the IEP with fidelity so the child can get a free and appropriate education, there's some fallout with that. So this is really going to take a larger conversation between the special ed department and the policy that is not working around bidding for the lowest, finding the lowest bid and abruptly changing drivers. When I'm feeling that these parents need someone they can connect to, because these are really serious issues. So with what I outlined, who can the parents call tomorrow so that they can have their issues addressed? Because I don't want an answer, we need some follow-up and investigation. So the assaults on students by monitors who are not aware that the student has a disability and thinks that the student is just acting out and then resorts to name calling. That's a serious matter. So what can these parents, what can you give these parents as a solution right now? Not just call the same people they've been calling. Who can they call? How can they have their situation resolved? Because there's a lot of questions around this. And then the other thing is, if you could talk a little more about, do you have a log of who's been trained? How is the training monitored? How do you, after they attend this training, how do you monitor the complaint process? Where can parents go so their complaints can be really investigated, reviewed, and responded to?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. So I think all of our monitors are trained. They receive training every summer. All of that is tracked. We've reported all of that to the state through some of the corrective action plans through PRS 7993. So that is happening. We're tracking that. We're reporting that. Certainly, if families are experiencing anything like what you're describing, I would really ask them to right away to communicate that to us, report that to us. The best place to go is to call our hotline, again, 617-635-9520. And then specifically, if it's an issue like that with the bus monitor, to press 3 to connect directly with a member of our monitors unit. Our team will immediately work to investigate that. We'll work in collaboration with the specialized services team, as well as if it's anything like what you're describing, then the Office of Labor Relations, of course, to make sure that that is immediately addressed and followed up on. So that would be the appropriate process to follow for anything like that. And then I also just want to talk a little bit about the rebidding that you're talking about. I just want to make sure that, everyone understands this is not, just a, BPS policy. This is something that, we're need to make sure that we follow all of our union contracts, and two, need to also make sure that we follow all of, state procurement regulations. And so that is why that, those outside private transportation rides have to be rebid each year, and why, for our students on yellow buses, there's that rebid process that occurs every October, November. And I'm not sure if Zach or anyone else wanted to add anything additional.
So to Edith's question about a person that they've not directly been reaching out to that they can have access to, I put my email address in the chat. My name is Zachary Houston, and I'm happy to, I may not be the person who solves your problem, but I'm happy to be the point person to help get to the right person. Given that I do partner with transportation a lot around the training, I likely am the right person. So let's start there. I'll put my email in the chat again, but it's zhouston@bostonpublicschools.org.
Thank you for that. And I really want to make sure that we're getting to a couple of other these families who have been waiting. But I would echo among the things that I heard from Edith and from families echoing similar sentiments in the chat. It just has to be named that, yes, well, policies and procedures may be in good working order, toward a solve, just for folks on this call at BPS to hear that, that for families going through all the things Edith described and that you're hearing in the chat and everything, just remembering again, the urgency piece is on, everyone's child is so precious that while things work their way through policy shifts and all of the changes is one thing, and we're all proud to support that work, but just to remember that, a child in a transportation situation like the ones you've heard about cannot wait, especially the kids with disabilities. That time frame is lost, gone, and much shorter than it is even for a lot of our general education students. So I just have to highlight the urgency piece there. But again, I want to get to, I see Litsy's mom has been waiting very patiently. Go ahead with your question about transportation. Can you hear us? All right, maybe she took a break. We'll come back to you. Fabienne, can you hear us and you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, Jess, it's Lisa's
Yes.
mom right now.
Okay, I'll come back.
Okay. Hi, we can hear you.
My concern is I want to know why it is two things happen to my daughter in the school bus. The first one was the transportation just doesn't show up, that she don't gonna, that she gonna come, the next I can talk in Spanish, it's better for me.
Yeah, go ahead, let's see, and I'll interpret. No worries.
Sí. Bueno, el lunes pasó un altercado con el bus. Entonces el bus no decía que al otro día era que iba a funcionar. Mi hija no llegó a la casa hasta las 7 de la noche. Y tuvimos muy preocupados los padres. Hubieron 2 padres que fueron a la policía y yo casi, y otra madre, casi vamos a la policía. Entonces, el problema es que solamente dice la aplicación que va tarde, pero no dice qué pasó, por qué viene tarde, nada. Ayer pasó lo mismo. El bus se dañó, la transportación se dañó. Ayer no, el martes, perdón. La transportación se dañó y ellos no avisaron que el bus se dañó y el bus seguía en el mismo lugar. Y yo llamé a la escuela, llamé a la transportación. Ellos solamente te dicen, oh, el bus está en tal sitio, pero no te dicen cuál es el problema que pasó con el bus. Y hablé en la escuela sobre eso y ellos lo que dicen es que ellos no tienen acceso a ver el GPS, Y en la escuela también estuvieron esperando por el bus y el bus llegó a las 6:30 de la tarde. Y yo fui a la escuela a buscar el bus y el bus no estaba ahí. Y yo estuve muy angustiada, yo estuve a punto de llegar a la policía porque mi hija no estaba aquí en la casa, no llegaba y eran las 7 de la noche. Hello?
And did you get that, or do you need me to share?
Yes. Yes.
To the group, mom shared that the Zoom app hasn't really.
My only concern is because you don't gotta say all that. My only concern is I want the bus tell us what is the problem because the bus Tuesday they broke and they don't even tell us that what happened in the bus, nothing. They just say the bus is late. And when I go to school to talk about it, they say they don't have access. They just have access to call, not to see what is the bus. So Monday happened something too, also to my daughter in the bus. The bus doesn't come in the time, and they don't even telling you what happened. So the bus coming 7 o'clock. My daughter go out from school 4:25, and she coming to my house here 7 o'clock. I was almost in the bus I was almost in the bus in the police station because I don't even know what is my daughter. They just tell you, oh, it is in that address, but they don't even tell you where is the kid. And we was so like I was crying and everything. We was crazy. It is another kid that go in the bus with my daughter too also. And we was really crazy that day. And Tuesday too. The bus get broke and they don't even test us nothing. They don't even tell us nothing like that. They just put in the app that is late. That's it. And we worry about it because we know that it's traffic. We know that it's a problem. It is not just one kid. It's a lot of kids in the Boston Public School. But we want to know what is happening.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I know it's such it's so difficult to not, finish your remarks and question, but I do want to make sure that we don't run short of time. So can you ask or consolidate a specific question for Dan here? Or if you think it's a much lengthier conversation, let's be sure that someone in OSS or transportation gets back to you tomorrow to talk about this in depth, because you absolutely deserve it. I just want to make sure that if there's a piece of this that Dan can answer that speaks to the whole group, that we get to that before the call is over.
Yeah,
Kelsey,
maybe what I can say,
I can do that.
if you can put your information in the chat, I'll make sure that when a member of our team reaches out to you tomorrow to have a much longer conversation about what happened. But just generally specific to, one of the things the breaking down, if and when that happens, especially, or if any sort of situation like that where, it's 7 o'clock, that's multiple hours after the bus should have gotten home, for a situation like that, we would and should be, doing more than just, showing in the app that the bus is running late. You should be receiving a phone call from a member of our customer service team, to say, this is what's happening. The student is still on the bus. She's safe. She's in this spot. This is, what's going on. And so if you can put your information in the chat, make sure that we fully get to the bottom of why you didn't get that call and have somebody reach out to you tomorrow.
And I would add to that.
Thank you.
Would add to that, anyone who has a concern, please put your name and your phone number or your email in the chat. We as a board will follow up and make sure that you get an answer. So please put your name and your phone number in the chat. We will download the transcript and we will make sure that the Office of Special Ed and the Transportation Department get back to you. So please do that right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Edith, for saying that. I'd also like to echo, we spoke to a couple of families even today about this exact topic. You can email us at SpEdPAC too, but it would also allow us to, with your permission, forward any concerns or speak on your behalf with either the Office of Transportation, or certainly Office of Specialized Services, we are happy to do that, broker that relationship. I'm rushing because I'm also seeing lots of things in the chat. They're right on and very, very relevant, that really are questions for Office of Specialized Services and leadership. And as you know, we took this detour on this meeting because it was very, very clear right away that there are enough questions for transportation that it made the most sense to use that time here. But I want to remind everyone, we will, for our next meeting, which is on the new IEP on October 24th, we're going to sort of move over what was going to be that introductory piece about Office of Specialized Services. Kay Seal's gracious enough to be here this evening. She will present at the next meeting, and with her team as well. Olga Garrigo is here as well. So you will hear from them at the next meeting. We have a few minutes left. So with that in mind, I'd really like to use them, being sure that I see a couple of other hands raised. I think we can fit in one more question, and I'd really like to get to it. Let's try back. I see Fabian. I know we had some trouble with the channel before. So go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey. My question is, I just want to know, does the app work? Because before the school, the superintendent and the team, they were showing so much promising that they have a new app, that they have a contract for 3 years, and this is great, and this has been a disaster. Of what I'm hearing of parents are complaining, the kids are having so much issues, bus being late and so on. I just want to get, because I cancel the night before. If my kid has a doctor's appointment, I don't want the bus to be here. I cancel the night before. I cancel a couple of hours before. The bus driver informed me that he never received anything, neither his supervisor to inform him. Because if I'm having that issues, I mean, I'm hearing so many issues out there, but this is kind of, I don't have to bother to just calling and saying that, okay, this is not working. But what is the plan to make sure that, all this money that's being spent, that money can be spending so much in training for the bus monitors, training for so many other things that we could do. I want to know if this is working, or what is the plan to make sure this app is working down there.
Fabian, thank you so much. I'm only stopping you because, again, we're so short on time, and I know.
I'm done.
No, I really appreciate it. Dan, if you have a couple of sort of closing remarks with that kind of sentiment in mind, just about, right, what can be a great next step in terms of what you're thinking about to make all these moving parts working a little better and running a little smoother.
Yeah, no, I think I really appreciate the question, Fabian, and all of you, everyone. I think it really highlights the continued urgency of this work and how important it is that we get it right, that we continue to make improvement every single day. I think what we've seen so far this school year, and I saw quite a few folks in the chat, note that Zoom provides so much more information for families, and when it's working well, it's great. It provides so much more transparency. It improves the safety of our students on the buses. I think a lot of what we're talking about here and the is are beyond. They're not specific to the app, but they're more the bus delays where routing adjustments are needed to be made, or how can we continue to improve the training of our bus monitors, our bus monitors, our bus drivers, all of that is really urgent work that needs to continue. And when I think about the next 6 months, the next few years, Zoom is one tool, and it gives so much more transparency. It also gives us more data. But at the end of the day, it's a tool, and it's the problem, the challenges here are have been here for a long time, and they're systemic, and they require really significant change and really urgent commitment to continued improvement. So what I can say is I am committed to this work. I am here. Our team is here. I hear all the voices on this call. We're not where we need to be yet, but we will continue to work to improve. We will continue to work with all of you, all of the students, and our goal is to get to the point where 100% of students are, safely, reliably transported to and from school on time every day. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Dan. Edith, did you say you had one more thing to say before I close out?
Yeah, I just want to say that we had up to 130 people in this meeting, and I think there was only one comment that said Zoom is working. I think the others were saying that they're replete with problems, and these are problems that are very unique but very critical to students accessing the curriculum and being able to access services in school. So I'd like to have a continuing conversation about this. I did put my name, my phone number, and my email in the chat. If you're a parent and you have a transportation problem as a board member of SpEdPAC, I will follow up with you on this and make sure you get an answer from the district. So please put your number, put your name in the chat, and I will get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's 8:30. I want to just remind everyone before we hang up the call. Obviously, thank you to all our guests, including BPS, for coming here to support the call, the work, and making good on their commitments to follow up with those people. Again, when we talk about all these systemic issues, at the end of each call, of each ticket, of each concern, of each email, of each everything that we're all getting from all of you, and Edith's absolutely right, please tell us, write us at the SpEdPAC email, and we will broker that relationship, if you don't have it already, with the district so that we can at least start at solving some of these more individualized concerns, and hopefully that will translate into the working towards some of the systemic ones as well. But thank you to everyone tonight for sharing your voice, sharing the voices of youngest students and the most vulnerable among them. It's so important. We want to hear more from you and more often. Support one another. And the next meeting, as we said, is on October 24th about the new IEP. We'll be thrilled to see you then. And don't be a stranger. So good night, everyone. Thank you to our interpreters again, and we will see you next time, but be in touch sooner. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.